Hey, this week we're going to work on creating a line from our hand down through our leg and being able to keep a strong amount of force through that while the rest of your body can move more freely. So it's basically how do you create that kind of a connection so it feels like an attack is very strong while the rest of your body is loose and able to do other things. All right, let's get to it. For this week's work, you'll need a Joe, or really a stick, and a wall that you can press it into. The stick can be a Joe, a wooden dowel, a bow, whatever you have. All right. To start out, we're going to do the exercise that we've done a few other times, where you basically take your core, your middle, and have that pull your whole body. And just like before, you can also tighten your upper abs so that it goes into your upper body. You want to feel it in your abs and your back, and that pulls all the way up through your arms and through your legs, causing a little bit of torque. But it's trying to figure out how to make that line, that connection, how to feel it, how to use it, control it, etc. So this part should just be a review from previous exercises. And something I noticed with this exercise is that it can be difficult to feel it up through the arms. It's easy to feel it in the legs because your feet are flat and not moving. So we're going to modify it in just a second. And so hopefully you can feel upper body too. All right, so now we're going to use a wall. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to place your hand flat on the wall and do the same exercise. Now you should really feel it. Pull your hand. This will start to create a line from your hand down to your leg because your core muscles pull and turn, pulling tight along your other muscles, and basically you feel the tension all the way through, kind of a twisting tension. So you're going to be keeping a fair amount of pressure in your hand to the wall. Just like there's a fair amount of pressure on your feet because you're standing. It should be pulling everything tight, ideally. If not, increase your range a little bit so you're a little further away. With the roof being angled here at probably a little bit of an advantage with this exercise because it's easier to press. I'm not straining my wrist or anything. So once you're comfortable with that, just like with every other thing, you should move on and try something new. For that, we're going to go get our Joe or our stick, and we're going to press it into the wall. I'm using the palm of my hand, and I'm putting in a fair amount of pressure. And we're going to try and do is keep that pressure as we move. That way we can keep a line from their hand to one of our feet while the rest of our body moves. So right there, it's my right hand, left leg. And you can see the other leg is getting lighter, like I can move it. And the rest of my body should be fairly relaxed, so I can use it for other things. This way you can press, apply a lot of force while the rest of your body is still able to strike, to wrap, whatever. And try lots of different positions. All right, so there it's off to the side and behind. It's across my body. In which leg it goes down to the ground. Also changes. You can get underneath it and still be applying a fair amount of pressure. So if it were a person, well, specifically if it were a blindfolded person, they shouldn't be able to tell too much what's changing. If you can keep enough of a steady pressure. You can see my hands moving a bit, which is something that if you're training with a person, you try and quiet so that they really don't know what you're doing, at least from a tactile point of view. Visually, of course they do, but from a tactile point of view. And I switch my hands. You should also switch your hands every so often. But even when you're switching your hands, try and keep that pressure constant. And it should be tiring, because you should be using a fair amount of muscle to press the Joe into the wall. While the rest of your body, like I said, is relaxed, but that's still a fair amount of muscle pressing. I mean, this should also help if somebody is basically pressing you, right? Because part of your body can stop their advance while the rest of your body is free to do other things. As long as you can create that path, it should be pretty strong. And of course, the path has to be malleable in your own body. Because if it's just structure, then that's great if you don't ever move. But that means you can't actually do anything, so not necessarily the ideal approach. There, I'm just showing that, yeah, the rest of the body is relaxed. I can move in towards the thing I'm pressing. I can move away from the thing I'm pressing, from one side of it to the other, underneath. There, you saw it fell because I didn't keep the pressure on it. So, mistakes, which is why you practice, so that you make fewer of them later on at some point, hopefully. Right, and it's kind of interesting of how do you switch from one hand to the other without losing that pressure. Doesn't take that long to figure out, but it's kind of interesting. And I'm not just grabbing the Joe. I'm trying specifically not to grab the Joe if I have a choice. So I'm just pressing. And of course trying it, like I said early on, from all different directions and all different positions. If you wanted to increase the challenge, you'd move the Joe up and down on the wall. So try it when it's above your head, when it's down by your knees, etc. Just so you find out how to maintain the pressure no matter where you are. And then later you figure out how to actually use that in a more practical application. And there it fell again, because mistakes. So, when you get tired of this exercise, you move on. So now, like, the Joe is in the same spot, but try and keep yourself low. So you're moving more. You're not quite moving on the ground. For Japanese arts, this would be almost Shiko or Seiza. But right now for me, I'm just doing it more of a crouch. And mostly just because it's a different set of information to do the exact same task, right? Because I'm still trying to make a path from my hand down my body to the ground and have half my body really press it while the other half of my body is free to move. And if you wanted this to be more challenging, you do another exercise where you go both like high and then low. So you're pressing while you're standing, then you go to a lower position, do that for a while, then back up to standing, so that you can change positions also. And so there I'm explaining that it's going down my right arm to my right leg. There it's my left arm to my right leg. So you can do crossbody or same side. Both are different things to try, and both are good to know. Really, it's just making a path to the ground through your body. And then, of course, if you have lots of money and can build stuff, you'd have the bar that you're pressing into moving, which would make it even more challenging. Maybe I can figure a way to rig something like that. We'll see. If I do, it'll probably end up on one of these videos. So, when you get comfortable doing that, make sure that while you're doing it, your body is loose. I've said that a bunch of times, but you really want to make sure. And make sure that you can move in and away so that the arm that's pressing that position isn't fixed either. Like if you can't keep the rest of your body loose, you can't do anything. while you're creating that force, which is really bad from a practical point of view. And even your legs, right? That was to show that even the legs can move. The one that's not being used right there, one that's not the ground, can be used. All right. Transitioning from basically from the crouching to the ground a little bit and really no, sorry. Ha. So this is just transition and movement. So make sure that you're moving a lot from one position to another. Because you've been doing this for a little while now, you should be able to maintain pressure and move and keep moving without that pressure changing too much. Like I said earlier, you can see the Joe is moving, so the pressure is changing, but I'm still trying to keep a fairly strong press inward. And trying my best not to grab the Joe during this, which would make it a lot easier, but we don't want easy, we want difficult, so we learn more. So as you can see, I'm getting a little closer to the ground with a lot of it, which is the mistake I made saying we're doing the transitioning to the ground. That is actually what comes up next. And that is doing the same work, the same pressing, but while you're on the ground, which means it's still going from your hand down to a foot. And either across your body or the same side, doesn't matter. But you're making a line from your hand down to your foot while pressing, while the rest of your body should be relaxed and free to move. Showing that even the legs are relaxed. Well, more specifically, even the leg that you're not using is relaxed. Technically, you could probably do from your hand down to like your opposite shoulder or your other hand if you really wanted, or if you wanted to vary this exercise some. Depends how quickly you get bored with it. And for practicality, if someone's putting a lot of weight on you, if you can keep that weight at bay while the rest of your body can move out from underneath, that will probably be really helpful. Or maybe not even out from underneath, but into a useful position or action. And this may be difficult. I was a little lucky because you could see that it's caught, well, I guess it's a little below the trim up there, but it still helps. Helps it to keep the Joe from sliding. It's all sliding up and off. All right. So, once that's really easy, which shouldn't take too long, we need to up the challenge. So, stand back up. But now to make it really obvious the path that we're using, we're going to go one-legged. So now it's really obvious which leg should have the path. And then you can switch legs. Right, so now it's right arm to right leg, left arm to left leg, and so on. Try not to fall. I mean, this should help you also improve your balance. And it should be easier than just standing one leg, because basically the wall is your other leg as far as balance is concerned. But remember, you should be pressing into that wall with a fair amount of strength. So there should be a fair amount of effort to maintain it. And when you stop pressing, it falls. And just like with all the others, the rest of your body should be fairly relaxed. Remember to keep pressure. And here for a little bit, I got a little sidetracked in my mind. I found the steps to be interesting. So for a little bit, I stopped doing the one leg, but you should probably keep doing the one leg. I probably should have kept doing it. Just, sidetracked. And I'm back. But it is kind of interesting to pay attention to the steps and how you transition from your lying down one part of your body to another. Because you have to find a way to do that while maintaining constant pressure. I guess if you really wanted to see how well you're doing, you can mount like a scale on the wall and press into that scale and make sure that you maintain the same amount of pressure. That wouldn't show you like variation of degree, or direction rather. But at least it would show you whenever you lower the amount of pressure. I should do that sometime. So, like all things that you do or practice, it eventually gets easy. So then you up the difficulty. For that, I'm going to increase the distance from the point that I'm pressing into. And then continue with the one leg and strange positions and all that. But I want want to move myself further away from that point that I'm pressing into. So the line is more stretched out. And see how far away you can get and still maintain it. And yeah, it really would have been a good idea for me to mount a scale up there to see if I have lost power on these presses versus the other. Yeah, challenge yourself. Move further and further away. Which means any little hiccup in the change of pressure is probably going to cause it to fall. I'm still trying not to grab it. Still trying to just use my palm. There it was falling, so I grabbed. But I also reset everything. And of course, try behind you, not just in front, to the sides. I probably also should have gone lower and tried higher and all of that. I didn't, but I should have. So, you can. And awkward extended positions is kind of the point of this. The thinking behind that is if you can apply them at these if you can apply force at these very strange angles, then applying force directly or in front of your body where it's easiest and strongest should become ridiculously easy because you've figured out how to do it at these further ranges and these strange positions. So when you go to things that are easier, there shouldn't be any real thought you have to put into it, right? Because you've practiced much harder. At least that's the theory. That's also why I do a lot of the things on unstable surfaces, because it makes it more complex. So that when I'm on just a standard surface, it should be really easy. All right, so now we go back to our kind of an earlier exercise where we're pressing into the wall, but we're going to try and do that one-legged still. And see if the line is any easier to find than the first time we did it, when we were moving our core, right? And while you're pressing, you should be able to still move your body. That's the malleability while it's being pressed. Which is also why you'll notice I never really fully extend. I never, lock my elbow or lock my knee. Because I'm not trying to use, so this is going to sound weird, I'm not trying to use my bone structure. Though yes, bone structure is involved because otherwise your muscles can't move. But I'm not trying to make a straight line through my bones. Because to me that isn't practical. And it's not how our bones and joints are made. Like they're made to move, not to become a locked, rigid structure. So we kind of, in my opinion, you lose some of the innate ability that you have by trying to do that. All right. So now we're going to try it at different heights. Basically the pressing, right? So that was high, this is medium. And then you could go lower. It's the same idea, one leg, you're pressing, and while maintaining that press, you're moving your body. Making sure that I can move towards it, I can use my leg, I can use my arm, etc. Yeah, so I mean, you could be pressing and kick somebody if you wanted. If you hadn't been trying same side versus cross body, try that now. This came up from a comment of one of the people on the call that they tended to do, I think it was same side more than cross body, or the other way around. So we spent some time very specifically trying different ways, right? So like right hand to left leg or left hand to left leg. So the first one was cross body, the second one is same side. So that's cross body, that's same side. All right, so now without using your arm, instead use your leg. So it's a line from one leg to the other leg, and this should be really natural. This is like you do this all the time when you stand, when you crouch, etc. But the rest of your body, right, should be able to move. So you can be pressing off somebody and come in and strike if you wanted, or move around something. Just because you're pressing with your leg, well, specifically because you're pressing with your leg and your other leg, your upper body should be completely free. Like those should not tighten up. But we tend to have habits because we can't control what we do. That was because somebody asked me if I could switch legs. And I'm like, it's a possibility. But we'll get to that. So for right now, just keep going from one leg to the other, making sure your upper body can move independent. That just because you have tension somewhere in your body, that doesn't mean you have tension everywhere in your body. Yeah, basically being able to unify your body is good, but also being able to break it up into separate parts is good. They're different tools. If you can do both, awesome. If you get better at one and you understand the other one slightly, you should get better at the other one also. Just because you understand the differences. That could have been worded way better. Oh well. Sorry. All right, so now we're going to try switching legs. This did not go over well on the call. But yeah, you're basically pressing with one leg. You change the line to your arms and you switch over to the other leg. Not many people wanted to try this. There are systemic exercises where you do push-ups and you walk yourself up and down a wall. The left arm there was showing that the left arm is still movable if it needs to be. So, since people didn't want to fall on their faces, here was an example of how you can do it lower and still keep the same idea, right? But there, if you fall, it's no big deal. Here, if you fall, don't stare at the ground as you fall, basically. All right, so these were other ideas that people had on how to work on this. One is you take the Joe and you maintain pressure into the ground as you, this is Ikkyo Ukemi at the beginning, which can then go into like a reversal. But as you do some kind of movement or technique. And you want to maintain a constant pressure through that stick. There, that's Ikkyo Ura. Taking the Ukemi, reversing, basically. And there you're maintaining the pressure. You maintain the line through your body. I'm moving a little lightly with some of it. Right. You can see that it stays through a leg. But I am falling into old habits instead of working on the concept completely. Because ideally the transition in those steps should be a lot more deliberate instead of habit. Because then it'd be interesting to figure out I'm pressing down with one leg, how do I switch over to the other leg, maintaining the pressure and movement. There's more thought in that. So then, what if it's behind you? Can you still do the same kind of thing? Answer is, of course, yes, but it's how do you maintain it while the point's behind you? So that position of a partner doesn't matter as much. Yes, there are definitely advantages to be in one spot versus another, but it's to reduce how much that's necessary so that when things go awry, you can still do stuff. You can still move, you can still react. There is more concentration on maintaining a line on that one. Right, so switch legs, switch legs, switch legs. So same side. That quick transition. It's because I wasn't paying enough attention. So now we're going to try and move our core around it while maintaining that line. Which means the motion's smaller, cutting closer. But we're still trying to maintain a line while we do it. And we can try it on the wall or the ground, doesn't matter. But right, so that line is now going through your core, so part of your core is used to maintain it while the other part is moving, which would be muscle control, if you can. And this would be another one where having a scale mounted would have been a good idea, just to make sure that I'm applying about the same amount of force as I'm applying in all the others. There I was explaining how half the core maintains one line while the other half moves to move around what is the line, or in this case an obstacle. And then this should be more tiring than previous ones because both sides are really working. So it's not just the core maintaining that connection, but the core moving while maintaining that connection. And complexity. It's a good thing to do. So now we're going to try to move under, like completely under and around the line that we maintain. Which means you have to be able to switch the line from one foot to the other. Not doing a particularly great job in this. I'm keeping pressure, but it is like my arm is picking up the slack when I switch from one foot to the other. So then, same idea of moving under the force, but with the Joe. So pressing the Joe into the ground while we move around it, well, around the point of contact. And more specifically, under. I'm also not doing particularly well on this one. But that's why we practice. So, why not end on a bad note? All right. See you guys next week. Hope you all had fun.